It is Monday, and I am here broadcasting live from the Elbow River Casino here in Calgary. The first time I guess I've been on the air in this particular part of the world in almost 6 years. So looking forward to doing a whole bunch of things, including, of course, a couple of really big announcements, including our, well, I would say first major sponsor that we've had since we've been on the air for a little less than 2 months. Rob Maver going to join us. Talk a little Stamps as we are in Cowtown, taking care of Saskatchewan. Then they have poor Hamilton coming in, and it's not going to be good. For all my Hamilton brethren, for all the people I know in that area, it's not going to be good. And I'm pretty sure Rob's going to make sure that that's exactly what happens. Also, we'll talk to Scott Roberts. He is the commandant of the Elbow River Casino. It's more of a regime, really, when you think about it. And thrilled to be here once again. We'll get to some of the sports, including the excitement of the Open, as they like to call it. You don't have to call it the British Open. And I'll see if the hate for Jordan Spieth continues. I still don't understand why that exists. Why some people just don't like his act. I don't know. Is it because he came from a rich family? I mean, what is it about Spieth that you wouldn't like? That's just something that when you look at his play, when you look at, when he wins, is it because he, from time to time, gets excited and shows emotion? I got news for you. We've gone through years of guys not doing that. So sometimes I think it might be a little bit about what people don't like about an individual that they have kind of imagined. Because, got to be honest, I really haven't seen anything about a Jordan Spieth that drives me nuts, but it was quite a finish at the British Open. Also, we see, and this is what I find interesting and sometimes annoying about the NBA, of all the talk that we have about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the dominance of LeBron James, the lineup that they have, and the perceived indestructibility of anyone in the East knocking them off. And now Kyrie Irving wants to be not on that team. This is what's happening now. Is somehow there's going to be now some sort of deal where Kyrie doesn't want to be a part of LeBron's team. I don't get it. I mean, this is the part of the NBA where I look at it and I think, in the day, the team that you don the jersey, you have the number, you have the logo. That's the team you play for. But it seems now it's more like Sandlot. It's more about what happens at recess. And if you're not happy with what goes on, you go with two of your other friends, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and then you go and you invent this magical, weird little all-star team that exists in your head because that's the way you want it. And that is, to me, just a real reflection of what happens now in society where there is no wrongdoing. There is no, everybody wins. And at some point, it just looks like this almost massive immaturity where, do you think in this day and age there is a guy out there, someone who has huge potential as a star, as a blue chip guy coming out of university, that he would go on a team simply to make that team better and win? Is it me? Is that not going to happen anymore? Because that's what it's starting to feel like, and it's one of the reasons and one of the things about the NBA that sort of gets under my skin a little bit. Just play the game with the team whose jersey you wear until the contract says you don't have to anymore. But that's simply, I guess, not the world that we live in. So once again, we're thinking about these trades. And by the way, they'll all be massive. I mean, there's going to be a lot of quote-unquote real estate going back and forth with whoever that happens. So once again, we'll get to some of that. Well, I said we're going to talk a little CFL, and I'm also going to make a huge announcement. If you really want to see how far we've evolved in about 2 months, I probably in about 5 minutes time going to make an announcement that is really big for us, and we're thrilled to do it. Now, once again, here we are at the Elbow River Casino, the casino of fun, the casino that makes dreams happen. If you go to the other casinos in the city, those dreams, they go there to die. It's simply it's a little darker in the other casinos. There's a humidity to it, and I think disease. Now, I can't be sure exactly what they're doing at those other casinos, but I think you get sick when you go to them. They don't want you to win money, where here at the Elbow River Casino, they say, come down. We will give you money from our pants. are pants that we've made ourselves. Homemade pants is what we do here at the Elbow River Casino. And someone who's very big on that, my good friend Scott Roberts, ladies and gentlemen. No, absolutely.
Oh, hello, everybody.
No applause whatsoever for Scott Roberts.
Absolutely normal. That's absolutely normal.
Even that. Now you have to get a little closer to that.
How's that?
Okay.
Does that look?
Yeah,
okay, we okay? All right, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, there's a moment of awkwardness I think we all experienced right there. But Scotty Roberts, thanks so much for making this happen. I'm thrilled to be here and at the Elbow River Casino. This is something a little bit different for us, isn't it?
This is fun. Well, first off, welcome home. And it is home. I don't care what they say. This is where it should be. It's fantastic to have you. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to bring you here and to kickstart this. And let's get this regularity. What are you doing next Tuesday?
It's Tuesday, wide open. You're asking me? Wide open.
But no, this is what we wanted. It's fantastic to have you back. The opportunity, we've worked together over the years. Years and years and years. And it's just a fantastic opportunity. And once it came up, we had to go with it.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's fantastic.
I mean, look
live at the Elbow River Casino.
Yes, and as you notice behind me, this is some stunning work by Jade, who is... it's weird. Scott referred to her as his slave, which I don't think that's really not language we like to use that much anymore.
HR don't like it, but no. I think that it's well known. It's that's
it's what
why
happened.
Fight what it is.
And the beautiful artwork behind us. So I mean, again, and for those wondering where the Elbow River Casino, because in certain provinces or they come to cities like, well, where the hell is this thing? This is like the best located. And in all seriousness, if you want to go to a casino, this is the location because it's so easy.
We've got everything here. We've got the best parking in town. I say location. We've got Yuck Yucks upstairs.
Yes, once again, for those English-speaking people, that was Yuck Yucks.
I've been practicing.
I thought that was pretty good because the first attempt from this young man from Manchester was Yuck Yucks.
That's what it's called.
I'm not familiar with Yuck Yucks, but I think it has something to do with eggs. I don't know. I didn't understand that part.
Yucks.
Now, what do we have at the Elbow River Casino in terms of all the action and the games and so on?
Any game. It's like Vegas with your pants on.
Oh.
Talking of pants, keeping pants in it, that's always good. But we have all of the slot machines. We've got table games you want, 24-hour poker. We've got an off-track betting facility if you like the ponies.
Yeah. 24-hour poker?
Yep. Hey.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay.
But yeah, everything that you could ever want. If you went to Vegas, everything that you would experience there, except the Mexicans on the strip giving you the cards.
I just like to think those are suggestions. I don't know if necessarily. They're just suggesting that should you want to go that way, they have a girl in mind.
I phoned one once.
Yeah. How you doing?
It was a quesadilla house in Laughlin.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute. This is a picture of like Sasha Grey. I'm pretty sure she's not doing this now.
We got Grey Sasha.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't. Yeah.
Speaking of which,
she's got both arms. Isn't that attractive?
Yeah, don't bring back memories of that trip. That was the thing.
But
but it is fantastic to have you back, though, Mike. Honestly, the amount of people that have been in contact with us, they're excited to have you back. I've just been signing up. I know you're going to tell people something later, but I've been signed up on something. I hope people are going to get involved.
Oh yes, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Gonna be brilliant.
Oh, you signed up already? You signed up already?
I was in.
Oh, you're in. You're into it. Okay. Well, that is exciting. Scotty, thanks so much for joining us
Always.
here. Yes, and so now that we got the B list out of the way, yeah, you can get out of the chair now.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
See ya. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, broadcasting live here at the Elbow River Casino. RawMikeRichards.com. You're also watching on the dedicated YouTube channel. And, of course, if you've subscribed to RawMikeRichards.com, and there's a reason you want to do this. Now, Rob, we'll bring him in here now. Yeah, absolutely. As you watched, a game between Saskatchewan and Calgary, and yet I'm seeing very few watermelons on the head. Now, I don't know if there is a watermelon shortage necessarily, or people have frowned at the fact that wearing some sort of melon-like substance on your head just may not be getting the ladies. I don't know. Either way, it was that was a tough night for Saskatchewan, and joining us here is Rob Maver. Thanks so much for joining us, Rob.
Of course.
Of the teams you like to beat, of the teams you really enjoy beating, is that one of them? I got to think it is.
That's pretty much as good as it gets, them in Edmonton. Obviously, when they come here, they bring, as you mentioned, the watermelons. They're fans. They're loud. They're rude. And they wear watermelons on their head. I mean, really, what else is there to say? So, obviously, it feels great sending them home pretty upset.
Gorgeous night, though, too, at the stadium, too. And I said, for those that haven't gone around the league, and this is probably one of the older stadiums now. I love the job they did in Saskatchewan. I think Winnipeg's is fantastic. Tim Hortons Field, Ottawa, the refurbished BC. But there's still something about McMahon. I know it's not one of the newer ones, but on a gorgeous summer night, it's a great place to play. It's great for the fans. The sightlines are awesome. I mean, I guess at some point, are they talking about a new facility?
Yeah, they've been talking about it for a while now. I mean, there's the Calgary Next project floating around, and then they have the Plan B. I think that's called Victoria Park. But I love playing here, obviously. I have 8 seasons at this facility, so it's obviously something I'm familiar with. But just like you said, like it's a big open stadium. It's where the Olympics, they had their ceremonies there too, so it's obviously a storied facility.
Might be coming again by the sounds of things.
I hope so. I would love nothing more.
So you would love to see that?
Oh,
the
of
Olympics
course.
Here.
Of course. I'm a huge Olympic fan, so is my fiance, and we would just get a total kick out of that.
And you'd get good seats too. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, I hope. I'm going to be long done kicking footballs by the time that comes around. But hopefully I can scratch a few backs and get some tickets for that.
Well, and looking at the Stamps this year, it's you know with the CFL and the number of guys on the roster, sometimes you just kind of hope you don't get hit by the injury bug. I mean, you really hope that it doesn't decimate you, because as much as people always say, well, you can't blame a bad season or a playoff on injuries, well, I would counter, it depends on who gets injured. And I think you guys have seen enough injuries, I would say, that for the season already.
Yeah, we had 16 guys on the 6-game list. So those are where you put more severe injuries. We lost several D linemen for a few weeks. Charleston just came back, obviously, 3 sacks, 1 tackle for 1 yard past the line of scrimmage. Huge impact. But, I mean, Jagarad, Cordero Law, if all those guys are on the field, it's the best D line in the CFL by far. Mm-hmm. It's the strength of our team. Yeah, a lot of injuries, but Huff would always tell us that he doesn't pay us to play football. He pays us to win football games. So it doesn't matter what's going on around us. We got to figure out a way to get it done.
Now, Dave Dickenson on the sideline. I mean, what's he like as a coach? Because, I mean, I got to know him as a player, and he was one of these guys where, like, people think just instinctively that once you play the game that it becomes almost natural that you would become a coach. I would argue and say that's not true at all. I don't think it's true at all. There's a lot of guys who just simply would not want to go through what a coach does, but he seemed like one of those guys where he kind of was a secondary coach even when he was on the field when he played.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's not natural for every single player, but definitely Dave. He's really grown into the role great. I love playing for him. It's good. It's easy to have dialogue with him as a player. He's very approachable, especially because he's not that far removed from his playing days himself. Yeah, I just love playing for him. I don't know what else to say. In
special teams, and, look, you're not going to win the CFL if you don't have it. And I think sometimes where we broadcast, there's a lot of people that watch, south of the border. They see that field as being so huge, right? So they look at it and they think, okay, so what is important? I said, well, to me, special teams is always important. But for you to be able to put that ball where coverage can get down, and I thought you did a great job of it against Saskatchewan. I mean, it's one of the things that you do. It's just vitally important that, you have the sport. You got Paredes, who's obviously going to go out there and kick as well. But you work real hard on special teams, and it does show, because, quite frankly, in the CFL, if you're not strong on special teams, you're probably in last place.
Yeah, I mean, if you're losing 10 to 15 yards every single exchange, punt exchange, that's going to hurt you. That adds up to a touchdown after a few exchanges. But special teams deals in momentum plays, so if it's a big return or a big cover, are we setting up our defense in a good spot with a lot of field to defend, or are we giving them a short field? Same for our offense, right? So the more that you can help out the other two sides of the ball, the better.
So football for you, are you you're not Brampton, are you West End, Toronto? Where did you grow up?
Well, born in London, spent majority of my childhood in Brampton, I would say. Went to Guelph, so southwestern Ontario.
So in that area, because, again, in trying to find, and we talk about all the time about football areas, sometimes in the GTA, it's not a football area traditionally. I mean, well, maybe originally, but it's so splintered now in terms of football, which is why it's great to come out west, because that's the start of conversation. If you live in Calgary, Winnipeg, Regina, even in BC, that conversation on sports, you're starting with the CFL. It's not necessarily that way in Toronto, and I simply say it's not that there's necessarily a dislike. It's just it's so splintered in a massive area where there are a lot of different interests. So you grew up playing football in that area. Was there a was a player, and it wasn't there maybe necessarily a kicker either, that you sort of looked to and said, if I'm following a career, I wouldn't mind being this guy?
Well, I grew up going to Argos games, so obviously I watched Prefontaine a lot. That was cool. I was a Colts fan when I grew up, when I was younger as well. Mike Vanderjagt, obviously, Canadian guy, did some phenomenal things down there. But you're spot on about Toronto and football, though. It's just not the same. Going to the games at Sky Dome, I refuse to call it the Rogers Center. The Sky Dome.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you.
kidding.
I did too. It's not. Yeah, exactly.
They really took the taxpayers for that one. But the stadium was never full, and it just didn't have the same prestige attached to it. I would say. There's not that there's a better status out here of being a CFL football player, but you're known. And
sure.
You can't really say the same out there.
Well, culturally, too. I mean, I take a look at grassroots football in Western Canada, which is exceptional, and including grassroots football in the province of Quebec. I mean, that's just something, Le Rouge et Or and even now University of Montreal, the Carabin. I mean, you look at those French-Canadian players, there is a lot of junior and minor league football in the province of Quebec.
Yeah, it's strong.
In Ontario, you really got to look for it.
It's still pretty good, but Quebec does it best. I mean, they have their own equivalent of junior college out there called CEGEP.
The CEGEPs, absolutely.
So they can develop the guys. So everywhere else it's junior football. In the States it's junior college. But down there, or over there rather, in Quebec, your freshman players aren't 17 and 18 years old. They're 20 and 21 because they played 2 to 3 years of CEGEP.
Yep.
So that's boys to men at that age,
well,
especially
sometimes
football.
There was that one game, and I want to say, I'm trying to remember which guy, Le Rouge et Or, and it was that linebacker, the quarterback. I think he was 38. I don't even.
Yeah, it might have been 40-something. It's nuts, though.
I mean, how does that happen? And then they had that pipeline with a bunch of guys for some reason, like University of Florida. There was a lot of guys coming from the state of Florida, so you'd see these Hispanic last names, and these guys were like, wait a minute. And he's how old? 30?
Yeah.
And that's why when I say Le Rouge et Or walking on the field, I'm like, okay, it's a semi-pro team.
Well,
I mean,
actually,
that's what it starts to feel like after a while.
They're run separate from their athletic department. So they're basically run like a professional football team in the sense of their budget. I always joke that the Laval guys are the only ones to take a pay cut coming to the CFL. The other running joke about Laval and the eastern schools out there is that, 25, minivan, kids in the backseat for practice kind of thing, right? But they're excellent football players. But they also have the benefit of more development, a stronger football culture, and they're much older too, and that definitely helps.
Now, if we look at the season then as it's transpiring, I would say the one thing that you're probably looking forward to is getting everybody back. I mean, at one point you're going to have the guys who were penciled in at the beginning of the season. You said, Charleston Hughes came back and was massive in last game. So we really probably haven't seen your team, quote unquote, actually play a game this year.
Yeah, but that's just the way football is.
Yep.
Injuries happen all the time. They're a part of football, and you can either piss and moan about it and make excuses for things not being perfect, or you can go out there and just play the game and win football games. That said, like you said, it's obviously going to be exciting to get a lot of those guys back on the practice field this week. Guys who started the year on the 6th game, they're allowed to practice this week because your 6th week, or your 5th week rather, you're allowed to practice. So practice is going to be different this week. There's going to be more bodies. And it's going to be exciting, like you said, to see those guys on the field since the first time since training camp.
Jerome Messam, they were saying on the broadcast, they said, yeah, he weighs like 240. I go, 240? He's bigger than 240.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I actually grew up playing with him in Brampton.
But what position did he play when he was in high school?
Jerome?
Yeah.
Oh, he was the running back.
He was still running. Because I know Mike Labinjo was a running back. And then, of course, he goes to the other side of the ball. And I think he was was he not from the Brampton area, too?
Yeah, he was from the Toronto area as well.
Yeah, But I'm looking at Jerome Messam. I think, once he gets through that line, in the CFL, once you're a DB or you're, maybe a Mike linebacker or something like that, he's probably bigger than you.
Yeah, Jerome's definitely bigger than the guys that are trying to tackle him. And that's one of the reasons why he's had so much success. He's just impossible to bring down. He's a very skilled player, but he's also very gifted in terms of his height, weight, speed combination. When we were kids playing together, it was just not even fair. He would run for 400 or 500 yards a game sometimes. It was absolutely insane. It's like, oh yeah, there goes Jerome for 100 plus, in one play.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest arm tackling. I saw a lot of that. I'm thinking, okay, I mean, I know that the knees are coming up and literally going to decapitate you, but boy, if you don't get down low on that guy, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, but you get low on him too. I mean, you take his knee off the side of your helmet, it's lights out.
You're gone.
So it's a fool's errand trying to tackle that man.
It's also good, I think. Sometimes when they talk about the stud quarterbacks in the States, they always want to have a stud quarterback. And if you're having a stud quarterback, I think if the guy's name is Bo, that's a good start. My quarterback's name is Bo. I'm like, oh, this sounds good. Yeah, I'll go in the huddle. This sounds all right.
Yeah, it's got a ring to it.
Yeah, Bo Levi Mitchell. And what's it like having a guy like that? Because he just oozes confidence.
With Bo playing for us, I mean, obviously there's nobody else I'd rather play for. He's the best player in the league. It's not even close in my mind. And just his confidence is contagious, is the best way that I could put it. We go into every game expecting to win, and Bo's a big reason for that, just because we know that we're being led by the best quarterback in the league. We know that no matter what the situation is, what the score is, we're always going to be in the game because of him, and that's a good feeling.
Rob, thanks very much for coming and joining us here at the Elbow River Casino on rawmikerichards.com. It's great to be back in Calgary. You've got another game coming up against Hamilton. It's not going to be good for Hamilton, I don't think.
Let's hope not. I mean, we do not want to be their first win. We don't want to pop their cherry.
But you make that point, though. When teams lose like that, it's on the clock. I mean, they pushed Edmonton pretty good the other night.
Yeah.
So it's not like here comes a team that's going to be toothless. I mean, because as professional athletes, there's a lot of pride there. And when you haven't won, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's pride, and they're also playing for their jobs. I mean, that's just the way it is, because if they don't win football games, they'll bring in guys who will win football games eventually, or they'll try. So they're going to be playing for their jobs. They're a desperate football team, but, I mean, you got to play desperate. So are we. We're desperate to win at home every single time. We want to protect our stadium. We want to win in front of our fans, and you have to win at home. So it's not like we're any less desperate than they are in that sense.
Before I let you go, there's so many great eating spots in Calgary. One of mine in particular, I haven't been there yet. I've only been here for 24 hours. But Pizza Uno, it's one of my favorites. Where do you like to go? What's one of your favorite places here in Calgary?
For which?
For eating.
To eat?
Yeah. What's a restaurant you go to? If someone said, okay, I wouldn't mind going here tonight.
I love just walking around Englewood.
Englewood?
Yeah. So you can go to the Nash out there. WAP, probably my favorite pizza place in the city.
Do you see Spally all the time at Spalombo's? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, he's around a lot too. Yeah, I know. Always go there for a sandwich too.
Oh, the sandwiches are the best.
That's a great area, Englewood.
Yeah, it is. It is nice. Not always. It wasn't always great. I can tell you that. Sometimes you went there and you just didn't come back. But it's beautiful now. Rob, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Rob Maver joining us here today on rawmikerichards.com. Here broadcasting from the Elbow River Casino. We're thrilled to do that because, as I mentioned earlier on the show and this week, I do have some announcement to make. This is pretty cool. And so we started, we were supposed to start April the 12th was the day. Wow, this is a big message here. April the 12th. And since I had recovered, as a lot of people know, from rectal cancer, I currently have an ostomy bag. So the day of the 12th, the first day that we're supposed to be on the air, first day of NHL playoffs, there's a weird blockage. And I get rushed to the hospital that morning. So we had to start, I think, back on the 24th. And since that time, we've tried to learn how this works. We know that this is the future. A lot of times in terrestrial radio, I look at what a lot of companies are doing right now. And one by one, it's just going to get weaker, weaker, and weaker. So do I want to be part of Blockbuster, or do I want to be Netflix? Well, I want to be Netflix, and that's why I created rawmikerichards.com. In doing that, you also have to attract people that want to see exactly what this thing's going to look like. What are you going to do? Well, traveling here to Calgary is just a part of it. We're thrilled that they invited us out here to be a part of the Elbow River Casino, and I'm proud to announce that our first big sponsor that is going to be a huge player for rawmikerichards.com is Bet Regal. If you go to rawmikerichards.com on my site, you will see a link there that says Bet Regal with an introductory offer that is exclusive to Richards Army. So what you want to do is go to rawmikerichards.com and click on the link. They've got so many things to talk about, the advantages that you're going to get, and one of them is just huge. in that they're going to pride themselves on giving you better numbers than what you're going to see on any of the other offshore accounts. Now, when you talk about offshore betting, which is another thing that you can't do on terrestrial radio, for instance, Bet365. Remember them? Bet365. They were on the fields on the CFL. They were everywhere, but because of licensing, one by one, they just disappeared. In fact, try getting an account now with any of them, and you can't. Well, you can with Bet Regal. The owner, as a matter of fact, is Canadian. So he understands the sensitivities and what we go through, even with banking. So it's made things a lot easier. So there's a premium for joining us this week. So they offer, and this I'm reading verbatim, a Canadian-specific payment method that makes depositing a breeze. It's called InstaDebit. You've probably seen it out there. Allows you to make transfers directly from your bank account. And so, once again, there's, if you want to talk about a morality, there's only so much that you can do. So it's you can watch the wagers as you have it only in your account. So you can't just, have a couple of cocktails, go there and put down like $9,000. It has to be contained within InstaDebit, so you're accountable to your own account. Once again, the only thing, if you're watching in the States, and I know we do have viewers south of the border, obviously because of that, BetRegal doesn't accept players from the United States. That's important. So once again, it's a fairly new brand. For those that are familiar with companies like Pinnacle, well, my good friend Ali Lalani, who's a part of BetRegal, he worked at Pinnacle. Most of those that are involved in BetRegal have worked with all the big ones, whether it is, Five Dimes or William Hill. They've all worked for years in this industry, and they've come up with BetRegal. So what do they have? They also have in-play, which, as you know, is huge. And, of course, they also have cash-out. So if you're on some of those sites where we've seen that, they have all of that. So we're thrilled to have them. Again, when you start all those years in Calgary, and for the last I don't know how many years where we talked about ProLine. I won a lot of money on ProLine, but it's very, very difficult. In fact, if not at times, impossible. So you kind of want to get away from that. Most gamblers are going to tell you that. This becomes very, very easy. No more running to the 7-Eleven or Max. This is something that you can do on your phone. So if you're watching right now, if you've downloaded this and watching later on, so go to rawmikeRichards.com and click on the link. It is there is a special offer. So for this week, and this is important to understand, for this week and this week only, BetRegal has agreed to increase their deposit bonus only for listeners of the Raw Mike Richards Show. And only for this week to 40% of your first deposit, to a maximum of $200. That means if you deposit $100, you'll get $140 in your account to bet with. So once again, just go to rawmikeRichards.com and click on the BetRegal logo for all the details. And again, if you have any issues whatsoever, they all have customer support at BetRegal. But this is pretty cool because, when we talk about the lines, when we talk about the numbers, and as you know, when it gets to the fall, and Dave and I are going to be talking about a lot of football. We've got some plans also as well for hockey, and we'll have a special announcement regarding footy because that's a big part of obviously what we do and what I win on. So we want to see, at least for me this week, I want to see 1,000 people deposit. I want to see 1,000 people sign up to BetRegal. A lot of times you're going to hear guys like Jim Rome talking about, when you support me, you support the show. So if you go to those who support me, you, in light, support the show. You just got to get it done. Take your grill to the computer, fill yourself in, and sign up today. We would like to see at least 1,000 people in the next 5 days. I think we can do it. If you're a part of Richard's Army, it's easy to do. Click on rawmikeRichards.com and hit that link. You'll be glad you did. Out. Good night now. So that's the big announcement today. We're thrilled. So once again, go to the site, click on, and once again, it's just the logo you're looking for. It really is, quite frankly, that easy. So there we go. Our first huge international sponsor is BetRegal. You're watching rawmikeRichards.com, either on, by the way, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel as well when that little red icon comes up there. I'd like to see that increase. And, of course, as always, we like to see the Richards Army increase by going to rawmikeRichards.com and just clicking on that logo. What else do I want to talk about today? Well, I understood that our longtime friend, Chris from the Tokes, has a song. He's in northern Saskatchewan right now, but he'll be having that coming up very shortly. Do you remember those songs? Crazy songs. Like to see the people sending in pictures watching live. Brad Kowalski just sent one in. Remember Brad Kowalski? The world's greatest actor. That, of course, from the Fan 960 days in about, what are we looking at? About an hour and a half. I'll be back on the Fan 960 with my good friend Kelly Kirsch, the program director, and I'll do an hour on the Fan as well, which should be interesting and maybe surprisingly might not be talking about Flames. It's the end of July. Well, I get it. When it comes closer, we'll probably talk more about that. So, once again, broadcasting live from the Elbow River Casino today in the CFL. I see that the Red Blacks and the Argos will be going about it. They're going to celebrate those two Grey Cup teams as well. So it is Doug Flutie bobblehead night. And then coming up this weekend, Doug Flutie will be back here as part of that 92 Grey Cup team. Bruce Covington, Big Tuna, he's going to join me on Wednesday. Also this week, tomorrow on Tuesday, Katrina LeMay-Doan is going to join us. Always thrilled about that. And then Sean Hope Ross, who longtime trainer to the Stars, as I like to call it, he's going to come into the casino. We'll have a chat with him. He might have some of the players. He has, over the years, trained so many of the big NHL players because they all basically come back to Calgary before they go to their mansions down in Kelowna. That's got to be a good life. I got to be honest. So you come back. Have you been to Kelowna? If you haven't been to Kelowna, and look, I don't talk a lot about BC and never talk about Vancouver. Not. But Kelowna is unbelievable. So there you have wineries and a lake and mountains and golf courses, ski hills. That's your life. Of course, you need now about $5 million to buy a place on there, so that could be a little bit of a trick. But we're going to have Sean Hope Ross, and he's going to talk to us about that training regimen. That's where Dale Cowboy Brown, I don't know if you remember those days. He was a middleweight about, I want to say, no, it's getting closer to 10 years, probably about 8 years ago, who had a real shot. We were kind of hoping to line up a big boxing match for him. We even tried to think about it at the Saddle Dome. It didn't quite happen. He was boxing out of Hollywood, Florida at the time, and we just kind of didn't get it done in the window that boxers, quite honestly, need it done. And that's where he worked out of, so I got a chance to put the boxing gloves on, and that was one of my great and favorite moments, except being ridiculed and mocked as I was getting chirped by guys like Justin Pogge. Jason LaBarbera, you know who you are. They didn't get in the ring. You didn't get in the ring with me, did you? Yeah, I didn't think so. Call me when you're someone. Actually, they probably are someone. Also, talking about things boxing. On the 26th of August, so McGregor and Mayweather. And I know people say, I'm not going to watch that. Yes, you are. I know you're going to watch it. And quite honestly, I just mentioned about wagering. You might want to put down a few bucks, I think, on that thing going at least 9 rounds. You start making your money after 8.5. 9.5 is huge. And I got to be honest, if it's going to be a decision because they're both counterpunchers, which is not going to surprise me, think about their styles. Like, I don't think anyone's going to be knocking anyone else out. So if it goes to a decision and you figure that the better boxer that day is going to be Floyd Mayweather, do you realize it's a 3? It's 3 times your money? That's the easiest money I think you're ever going to make, because I think it does go the distance. And if it does go the distance, geez, do you think there'll be another fight? They're going to make $1 billion each after this thing. It's just massive. And on that night, I'd like to announce that ourselves, that is rawmike.richards.com, our friends at Eggplant Pictures, right in downtown Toronto, 234 King Street East, the Pacific Junction Hotel, and I think probably Betty's that night. We're going to have a launch party celebrating the fact that we have this union between ourselves and Bet Regal, which is going to be fantastic. So there'll be details coming up when I get back into Toronto after we're finished here with our week in Calgary. And we'll invite everyone down, and we'll actually probably have the Bet Regal guys there that night. We'll have what they're calling the Insta-Debit girls. How can that be bad? It can't. So we're going to do that. Once again, August the 26th, we're going to have a massive party, a massive launch, including some stuff that's going to be happening on the rooftops. And as you know, and Russell will tell you this, loves him some rooftop parties, because that's where the stuff goes. What goes on in a Bet Regal, McGregor, Mayweather Insta-Debit fight stays in. Well, that was way too long. Also, what do we want to talk about today as we sit here at the Elbow River Casino? We do have some signings. I don't know, I guess, in terms of how big this is. Russell, do you have your microphone over there? Do you have how big is this these signings today? Because I got to be honest, sometimes when I get into the fact that we're heading towards August, you start thinking about maybe what the some of the guys are going to do. They just finished their summer skate. I just don't know. What do you make of the St. Louis deal, by the way? What is it, 5 years, 27.5 million? So it's a cap hit of $5.5 million for Echo.
Pardon?
For Parayko.
Oh, Parayko,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that was on, I believe that was on Friday he made that signing. Today, the Jets re-signed goalie Connor Hellebuck. So they have, I guess, their 1B or their backup to Steve Mason that they got in free agency. And Brian Dumoulin, I know, re-signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm just looking up the dollar amount right now. I don't know it off the top of my head, but that's a good depth signing for Pittsburgh on defense. So he kind of played a major role during the playoffs for them, so it helps kind of shore up their back end for this season.
See, there's the roast beef corner. Roast beef corner with some of the signings. Again, I don't know if it's groundbreaking nonetheless. Although we did get a conversation last night around town about those when we talk about the PGA Championship. I mentioned a little bit about Jordan Spieth. Will you be cheering for him or against him to get that done? At least there's a story to talk about. The one thing about the PGA right now is on a weekly basis, do you enjoy the fact that there's some guys out there playing some excellent golf, even though you may not see them in the top 5 or top 10 the following couple of weeks? Do you like the fact that it's almost, in some ways, a revolving carousel of names on a weekly basis? Or did you enjoy it more when there is a dominating player? Do you like it better when there is a dominating golfer and perhaps one of his, a nemesis? Because right now, I don't know if you see anyone, quite honestly, who wears, quote unquote, the black hat. I just don't know if you see it. I don't know if golf, if that's good for golf. When Tim Fincham was during the Tiger Slam era, I mean, it was really quite easy for him, quite honestly. He must have worshipped at the altar of Tiger Woods before the window smashing, before the Denny's visiting, or at least publicly. But you got to hand it to Tiger. He got all that done, and that's when he was winning. That's when he played his best. Maybe there's a lesson for all of us. Maybe you should keep cheating. But we're taking a look now at a time where, you've got Spieth and McIlroy, you've got Jason Day, you've got Ricky Fowler. I mean, it goes on. But I don't necessarily, amongst them, think that aside from maybe, a bunch of them being likable, but do you care if Bubba Watson's in there? Are there Bubba fans? You think Bubba's weird? Does it mean on a Sunday that there's certain matchups that you want to see? Because I don't think that exists right now. And I've always thought that as much as people say it's great when David and Goliath meet, but what happens if it's David that is going against another David? And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's the same thing that has leaked, quite honestly, in the NCAA basketball. As much as you like to see Alcorn State make some ridiculous run and get into the Final Four, I would suggest when I see the bigger teams playing against each other, that's what draws me in. So if I am watching North Carolina State against Kansas, I'm not hating it, because I don't know if everybody necessarily wants to see George Washington. It's just one of those things. So I think the PGA right now, as much as I've seen some excellent golf, I just don't know if it's the kind of golf necessarily that inspires younger people to play the game itself. I mean, think about it. Tiger Woods, and I'm not getting into any ethical conversation, but Tiger Woods changed the way that people even approach the game of golf, because the game of golf wasn't that approachable. It was seen, quite honestly, and you've seen Caddyshack like 9,000 times, it kind of was a sport for those that had money. It was, quote unquote, the country club sport. You had to have money. That was kind of the way golf was looked at. You wore goofy pants. You had white shoes. It wasn't young guys playing it. And for the young guys who did play it, they weren't, quite honestly, that great a shape. They weren't real athletes. Not really. I mean, even look at the Classic. Have you seen what Jack looked like? Do you see, even Tom Watson to agree, these guys weren't necessarily going to play another sport. Look at it now. And Tiger was the reason for that. He got people of all different races, quite frankly, of thinking that why can't they pick up a golf club and start to play. So you saw all these junior golf programs springing up because they all wanted to beat Tiger Woods. I don't even think that's arguable. At this point, regardless of what Tiger is now, I think younger kids, if you're those that might want to play golf, Tiger Woods starts becoming a conversation where maybe they didn't really see him play. I mean, when's the last time Tiger Woods was relevant and he was on television playing? Are kids looking at Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy and Fowler and Jason Day and saying, I want to be them one day? I don't think they do. I just don't think I don't think that's the era that we're living in when I start talking about the PGA. So I thought it was interesting that it was a crazy finish with the British Open. But I don't know necessarily if the guys right now on the tour are inspiring a generation of youngsters to play golf. You're watching rawmike.richards.com, either downloading the app or, of course, watching us on our dedicated YouTube channel. We just mentioned today that you're going to my website and hopefully signing up with Bet Regal, our first real huge announcement on sponsorship. I'm hoping in the next 5 days we get like 1,000 people. That's what my goal is. The things that they're offering, including the introductory offer of getting 40% of your deposit back. Put down $100 if that's what it is. They're going to kick in $40. That's the way it's going to be. And, of course, here in Canada specifically, it's owned by a Canadian. They're the guys that are making it easy for you to go to InstaDebit and allow you to actually gamble. If you're thinking about going to one of the other offshore sites, including, Bet365 that we've used forever, you're not getting an account anymore. There really isn't a lot available. So this comes at just kind of an optimum time, I think, offering better lines. That's right, better lines than the other offshore accounts. And once again, I'm here to prove, and certainly to our new sponsors, that the Richards Army is going to come through for them. And those watching for the first time, that this is really where you want to be at. And we're thrilled that Bet Regal is a partner of rawmike.richards.com. As I said, once the NFL gets here, we're going to go mental with that. I think that probably some of those future bets, like that Dave made, what was that, over 11.5? Was it 10.5 or 11.5 games? Just to win. The Patriots, 11.5 games. So if you go through their schedule and you take a look at it, I know that number has jumped. I think it's 12.5 now. And I don't see them. You're telling me they're going to lose 3 times this year? You look at that schedule, I don't think they're losing three games this year. Teams that you believe in. And I think it's interesting still that you see that the Falcons are still, in terms of being favorited or numbers on. I don't know if you can pick that either. Do you think that they picked themselves up over that, what I say is close to a humiliation that they suffered in the Super Bowl? I don't see it. I see that this is going to be yet another year for the New England Patriots, and if you're roast beef, you're thrilled about that because he's one of those, I'll tell you, he's one of those irritating people that really didn't know a whole bunch about football. And then all he did was decide who his favorite team was going to be. Oh, I think I'll choose the New England Patriots. Yeah, it's a good choice. You mean the team that wins every week? Tom Brady's the quarterback. That one, Bill Belichick, that team. We look forward to that. And I got to say that the one challenge that leagues have, and they certainly do in the NFL, is finding the quality quarterback. That has become almost a mission, and that's why I think sometimes you see some of the monies paid for these guys that are just completely, I think, almost unreasonable in terms of the money that you're paying for a guy. Like, do you honestly think that Kirk Cousins is worth that money? If Kirk Cousins starts going to some of these other teams, does he start winning for them? If Kirk Cousins goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, do the Cincinnati Bengals become a better team? Because I don't know if anyone piles anymore on Andy Dalton. I don't know if there's a quarterback that people sort of roll their eyes with Andy Dalton. But these are the kinds of guys who are getting some serious money. I think the one guy that a lot of people are going to be watching this year, and the team in general, are the Oakland Raiders. So are we going to see Derek Carr, who now has, I believe, become the highest paid quarterback in the entire league? What does he do? And it's interesting we talk about the Patriots because it is, I believe, the Patriots and the Raiders are going to meet in Mexico City. I think if there's a chance for anything to happen, if you're looking at a loss, possibly, that might be one of them. But you're starting to throw stones on a roof at that point because that's assuming quite a bit from the Oakland Raiders in a venue because it's a neutral site. It's in that stadium in Mexico. What's it hold? Like 500,000 people? It's the Azteca Stadium. It holds like way too many people. No offense, but you look at the turf in itself. It's always like mucky. It's always, I know, some people lighting themselves on fire. I think there's human sacrifices, quite honestly, that go in the upper decks. It's always a weird environment. Sometimes you see like smoke wafting across as the game's going on. If there's going to be a moment that's going to be a little weird for the New England Patriots, maybe it's that. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people at halftime in the Super Bowl thought that New England wasn't going to win that game either, I being one of them. And once I realized my bet was gone, I went back to the heavy drinking. And there is nothing wrong with that. Of course, I'm now broadcasting in another place that has that's surrounded by alcohol and slot machines. Of all the disastrous places that a guy like me could be, it's you're looking at it right here. I mentioned before, Katrina LeMay-Doan will join me tomorrow. It's interesting. We'll have a lot to talk about as here in this town, here in Calgary, watching the news this morning about the bid and the bidding, I guess the way in which Calgary wants to bid for the Winter Olympics. Pretty interesting stuff. There's Rob Maber, who's just leaving now, said, yeah, he'd like to see it. It's interesting that different cities have different perspectives based probably on their experience with the Olympics. Now, if you're looking at the infrastructure here in Calgary, I mean, they did it. 88. And so, would it be bigger now? I think it would be bigger, but I think it kind of fits the city a little bit. They know, and I think also in the size of what a Winter Olympics is, I think they'd be capable of it. If someone said, Summer Olympics, Toronto, you don't want to live in Toronto. You don't want to live almost anywhere where the Summer Olympics takes place. Any city that takes it on aside from, London, I think London was more than capable of it, but again, their infrastructure, the way that their subway system works, the way the bus, I mean, they had a lot of things going for them, and I think in London, it kind of worked, and London is friggin' huge. London is a massive city, and I think it works. I think it's when you're one of those in-betweeny kind of towns, you're kind of big. I mean, you look at the GTA, so if you're talking about Toronto, what they would have to take over to run an Olympics. Did you see what happened during the Pan Am Games? Do you see how thrilled people were about that? They weren't. And, I got to be honest, the pageantry of that opening ceremonies kind of had something to be desired. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the island of Bagoosh. What? What country is that? 3 guys on there, and they go, and that's their basketball team. Yeah, there's only 3 guys. They're not going to, and even when the U.S. came out, and I'm used to, look, you see the U.S. national team in the bigger events, especially when it comes to the Summer Olympics, it's literally like the size of Edmonton. There's like hundreds of thousands of people, and guess what? They all win medals. They're all winners. The Pan Am Games, look, it is what it is. Those participating would be nothing in the Olympics, but that's even in terms of its scope as well. They were blocking up, the traffic is disgusting. It's shit. It's the worst driving in the world in Toronto. And then you're told that you can't go on the main highways. You have to be detoured like cattle going into an abattoir because there's a softball game between Curacao and, the island of Bagoosh. This is what I'm talking about. And unless you're into that, I just think going for the Summer Olympics in any of the Canadian teams, just ask Atlanta how much fun that was. Yeah, see, maybe LA can handle it because once again, it's got scope. The size of the city, it can get it done. But I wouldn't suggest anytime soon, and don't ask anyone. I don't think of from Greece, because I think they're bankrupt between now until whenever the sun explodes. I just think it's impossible to get that money back. I get it because of the anniversary, but was it really worth destroying your financial future so you can watch Olga from Germany throw a shot put? I don't think it was. I don't think it was worth it at all. So what have we learned today? We've learned that we want to sign up on Bet Regal is what we want to do. So go to, I'm telling you, once you start seeing some of those numbers and how easy it is to actually sign up, I want to show that the Richard Army can get it done. So go to rawmikeRichards.com and just simply click on the link. It will explain it once again. 40% of your initial deposit because you're part of rawmikeRichards.com, and it is for our listeners and viewers only. Also for those who are downloading on iTunes. And, of course, we got to fix that too. So we're on TuneIn. TuneIn is great. You can also get it in the car. The thing is, we've also implemented it in a way that you can get it, but it's like 12 hours. Like after we actually do it, you can actually receive it on TuneIn. So we need to get it so we can stream live. And this is, to me, an important note, especially if you're here in Western Canada, particularly Calgary right now, because we want to be in your car. I want to know that at 8 o'clock in the morning, you can just go to the dashboard, you hit apps or podcast, you hit tune in, and then hopefully one more button push, and you've got rawmike.richards.com. So I'm hoping we can figure that out by the end of the week. Got some tweets coming in here today. If the computer will work. Don't screw me, computer. So far, I think technically not a disaster, which is very exciting for me. Let's take a look at the tweets. Look at this computer, what it does. What a piece of shit. Hey, computers. We let the nerds take over in the world, and look what's happening. Now, here we go. Here's, Rob just Maver sending in. By the way, there's, as I said beforehand, if you want to see a beating, just watch this Hamilton game. Just watch this Stamps Hamilton game. That's why you sign up for Bet Regal, and then, your children's education fund, steal it. Take it. They're not going to do anything anyway. You know how you think all your children are special? They're not. They're not special. No special children. Okay, special kid. When your child's in the backyard, can they jump over your fucking house? No, not that special. This is what I'm saying. You don't have a special kid. How about passing once in a while? Here's something. You can't even fail kids anymore. You can't fail kids. I've got so many teachers in my family. My brother, who's at a really sort of snooty institute, and Murray's kids used to go there. He had failed 4 kids. Nope. Headmaster said, no, they all must pass. Why? That's how it is. Kids aren't special. But this is going to be special this weekend because you're going to sign up for Bet Regal and win. That's the best I can do. I can give you money. Also, as I'm taking a look at some of the notifications here on... Oh, there's one from Quinn. Tuning in right now, sounding great as always. Kate Pedersen. I think, Kate, I got to be honest, I'm hoping we're having dinner soon. Is that wrong to say that out loud? Got very quiet in here. maybe you tell people that you're going to take someone out to dinner, but I really should. What else do I want to talk about before we go? Baseball. Does anyone care these days about the Blue Jays? Anyone wondering necessarily are they going to be buyers or sellers? I got to be honest, I don't think anyone cares. But I am going to be very interested in how this thing is going to end up this fall. Again, we talk about dominating teams. Do you like it? Is that something that you want to see? In baseball, it's the one thing. They don't have salary certainty. They don't have a salary cap. So you would assume those with the biggest pockets are going to win every single year. And baseball doesn't happen that way. It is probably, of all the sports that I think about in terms of its playoff structure, you just sometimes really don't know what's going to happen. I think the race between Boston and New York is going to be interesting down the line. I can't even believe that Tampa Bay is that close. They actually have bats this year. Because if the last name wasn't Longoria, I don't think you were really getting a hit that night. That's what it was. It was all in their arms. Now they have both, which I think is interesting. I think the Cleveland Indians, after a horrible start, have emerged in the Central. But how about the Kansas City Royals? Look how they were absolute garbage when it started. Now they're only, a game and a half back of Cleveland. And Minnesota, as much as it's a good story, I don't think anyone cares. Do you care about the Twins? Have you ever met a Twins fan? And I don't mean that kind of fan of Twins, which I obviously am. The kind of Twins that maybe you might hear the phrase "make it rain." That could be the Twins you like. That's not the Twins I'm talking about. The Houston Astros may be the real story of the American League and maybe all of Major League Baseball. I know Dave Bastel likes them to win the whole thing. The Houston Astros right now, 65-33. They are 17 games. So we're not even in August. 17 games up on the Mariners, the Angels, and the Rangers. What a disaster, I think, for Texas. There was a team a couple of years ago you thought would be in conversation each and every year. Fail. The Washington Nationals, 12 games up. Yeah, but look at the division they're in. The Mets have spent most of their time in a hospital. So you have the Miami Marlins, the Phillies, who you knew would be garbage, 24.5 games back. The closest team is the Atlanta Braves, and they're in a full rebuild. New stadium, but you knew what they were going to be. Washington, to a degree, I think almost gets a pass. Tougher year certainly for the Chicago Cubs, tied right now with the Milwaukee Brewers. So if I'm looking at these teams based on engagement, so those that you want to see, do you want to see the Milwaukee Brewers? If we just talked about David and Goliath, they're obviously David. I don't know if you want to pay money and see the Milwaukee Brewers. They're a great story. I said tied with the Chicago Cubs, who were like the greatest of stories last year, and of course the Cards in an off year. And certainly the Cincinnati Reds, boy, when's the last time, There are a couple of cities in the United States that are baseball first. Cincinnati's one of them. It's funny. I look at Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Milwaukee. And just look at it. It's just an absolute disaster. The Dodgers, and maybe not surprisingly, even though they didn't get off again to the greatest starts, starting to run away with it now. I know there's some people who thought maybe the Diamondbacks might be in it. They have fallen off. And the Rockies, unless they play at home. Russell, what are you showing me here?
Dodgers.
It's what am I reading? There's a lot of things. Also, this just in, I guess, for this is not good news. Clayton Kershaw, is back, expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. How does that impact their race? I mean, there is time, but when you've got a 10.5 and 11.5 lead, does that mean that one start every 4 games, is that going to necessarily change their? I don't think it does. I think the Dodgers probably hang on. And I'll be honest. Do you want to see the Colorado Rockies or Arizona Diamondbacks if they got into a playoff series? I don't. Hoping it's going to be the Dodgers, and you never know. Yes, will Puig flipping the bird to people, causing fights, arguing with teammates, and then having that Bo Jackson-like body going out doing stuff that a lot of other people can't do. That's an engaging story to me. So I will look forward to that. So thanks for joining us here today. And again, live from the Elbow River Casino, my good friend Scott Roberts. Scotty, why don't you come in one more time? There's Scott Roberts. You can see he's busy right now. Why don't you grab Scott before we sign off here? Apparently, I think he's signing up for Bet Regal is what he's done. I'm hoping everybody does. Also, Scott Elliott, who is the he's the technical advisor. I always call him Elliott because that's what. So it's just like yelling at the guy, calling him by his last name, like, "Hey, Richards." He's like, "Elliott, you don't know me. What do you call me Elliott for?" So, Scotty, we're just about to sign off here. Tell people there's all kinds of excitement coming up, including Brian Callen.
Yep.
Is coming in October when we hope to be back. He's got his huge podcast, Fighter and the Kid. He's on with Joe Rogan all the time, but he's on a lot of shows. He's on the Goldbergs, I think, a little bit. Does a lot of Comedy Central stuff. But people have to realize there's music, too. About what was that whole band setup behind me?
We have the Bayou Stage, which is to some people akin to playing at the Super Bowl.
Well, I did not know this.
Neither do they.
And you got but it's live music, every Friday or something like that?
Every weekend, come on in, enjoy everything that's going on. Obviously, like we put it out there because it was easy when everyone's out there having a gamble and a little wee wager.
Yeah.
If they're not doing so well, come and have a dance, shake it off. In the words of Meghan Trainor.
So, now here's a question. I've never asked you this beforehand because we were very, really serious. Do you think there will ever be, like, sportsbook gambling in this country? Because I thought it was getting close there about a year ago. I thought there was some pressure from certain people that they thought you could make a one-time wager on a sports bet, but you think it's never going to happen?
I don't, and the reason that I think this is because it makes so much money off the pro line that in itself takes all of the money and it would be controlled. And then I think if it was to come in, it wouldn't be under our direction.
Right, so it would be still government-sanctioned gambling.
Terrible odds. You wouldn't be able to get...
Well, it'd be like pro line odds, which are shit.
Yeah, they actually are the worst, really, that you can find.
They are the worst
odds. The fact that you've got to put a three-play parlay on means it's money in their pocket already before they've even begun.
Yeah.
They pick... Of 50 college, you know this better than me, how many, 50 college games on a Saturday, they pick 15 of the hardest, the worst. And no payout. And absolutely.
You'd have to take a massive dog just for that thing to come in. So,
as a gambler, some of the things that you look at, obviously, is, I don't know how many people know this, but just for example, so if you put $10 on Liverpool to win the Premier League at 8-1, you lose $10. Like that sort of thing.
I think the Scousers are outside. They're clamoring with their pitchforks and the torches as we speak.
But I think that the pro line thing is the biggest thing because so many people now are into that. They could never break what is just a money-making machine for them. And half the battle would be, I don't know who would be able, from a casino standpoint, I'm looking at Vegas.
Yeah.
In Calgary, we have the sports book, i.e. we have the off-track betting room, so we are ready for it. There are possibly 2 other places that are ready for it, but then everybody would want in on the action.
Yeah.
But then if you're not able to give your own odds, if you like, you may as well keep it at the garage. You may as well keep it at the 7-Eleven. Do you know what I mean? It would be easier for the public.
Yeah. Which is why you want to sign up with Bet Regal.
Bet Regal?
Yes, Bet
What
Regal.
is this?
Yes, well, it's magical is what it is. It really is. So go to rawmikeRichards.com. Look for the icon. Sign up. You're going to want to do it. They've got the best odds. And now 40% of your initial deposit is going to come back for this week only and for Raw Mike Richards fans or the Army, if you will. So it's the way to go. And again, it was a huge announcement that we actually did today. And, of course, we make it here at the Elbow River Casino. What do you think about that?
That is fantastic. I actually just went, I did go on.
Yes.
I wasn't joking. I went on and I'm like, oh, look at this. They've already got betting up for next year's British Open.
Already. Yeah.
Jordan Spieth, come on,
Oh,
Jordan, do it again.
Isn't that, though, the gambler's thing? You get wiped out, you lose, you're upset, and all of a sudden, oh, new odds. I'm going to come back. This time I feel lucky. Are you feeling lucky? Well, if you are, you want to go to Bet Regal. It's courtesy of rawmikeRichards.com, as I said this morning. Thanks so much for joining me here at the Elbow River Casino. We'll do it again tomorrow. My guest will be Katrina LeMay-Doan. We'll talk a lot about national sports and, of course, that bid for the Winter Olympics here in Calgary. What do you think about that? Have yourself a great day. We'll see you in C-Town.